Good evening, Tigers, and welcome to 23 News. I'm Kiara Allen.
I'm Nyoko Morgan.
And I'm Siggy Reese. It's time for this week's Mizzou News to Know.
In today's day and age, becoming irrelevant is cancel culture and news trends and even consumer boredom are just a few ways that youth can go from having a tremendous impact to being forgotten about altogether. However, a group of Mizzou students is dedicated to becoming everything but irrelevant. Relevant Youth is a student-run marketing agency housed in Columbia devoted to upholding professionals in their work. Relevant Youth recently started a podcast titled Keeping It Relevant that further explores the relationship between professionalism and students. 23 News reporter Andreas Bussey has the story.
Podcasts have become a powerful tool to connect professionals with other professionals and casual listeners alike. Relevant Youth, a local student-run marketing agency, has hopped on this trend to provide their own podcast offering, called Keeping It Relevant.
Relevant Youth is a student-run marketing agency. We have real clients in the Columbia area, and we have a big focus on professionalism, growth in our professional fields, making connections, and all of that good stuff.
The Keeping It Relevant podcast follows this emphasis on professionalism as it seeks to explore connections between current events and the impacts these issues have on the professional world, such as how personal social media accounts can interact with professional goals. The podcast also offers its hosts the opportunity to gain valuable experience.
It's like an internship, getting you ready for the professional world. It's student-led, so we're all trying to strive to be better and move forward in our careers.
Keeping It Relevant was the brainchild of producer Julia Eigel, who said the idea for the podcast was born out of a love for podcasting she developed over quarantine.
I realized that it was something really interesting, and it kind of combined my creative brain, but also like with my journalistic capabilities. And so that was something that I really enjoyed and thought that I would be really interested in.
Eigel faced several hurdles as she went through the process of pitching her show idea and getting it approved by the Relevant Youth Executive Board. Once the show idea was fully developed and staffed, Eigel got the show off the ground without formal training, equipment, or even a studio. This all changed for the second season as she gained access to a studio in downtown Columbia.
We're able to tape at this place called The Hub, and they have a ton of resources for growing companies, and we're able to use their audio recording space, which is super new. We're actually one of the first groups that gets to use it.
The Keeping It Relevant podcast is starting its second season this semester, after its first 6-episode season aired throughout first semester. The show is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Andreas Bosa, MUTV 23 News.
Thanks, Andreas, for getting this story. Last Friday, the MU Museum of Art and Archaeology opened its American Women Artists Since the Vote collection, showcasing artwork by female artists dating back to the 1920s. Along with marking the centenary of the 19th Amendment, this exhibit also gives voice to unheard voices from these past decades through its focus on inclusion and diversity. 23 News reporter Dominique Hodge has the story.
The American Women Artists Since the Vote exhibit opened briefly last Friday. The exhibit showcased the works of women artists that date back to the 1920s. Alyssa McCusker, the curator of European and American art at MU's Museum of Art and Archaeology, explains the significance of the exhibit. The collection was inspired by the election and the centenary of the 19th Amendment this past year. The exhibit shows off a wide range of art forms that truly embody diversity, representation, and unheard voices neglected since the 1920s. She explains that she wants everyone who visits to be able to find something that they identify with.
Just to feel like every single person matters, and their views matter, and they have something to contribute, whatever it is, to our society.
McCusker is adamant about how she actively looks for diversity and representation in the art she chooses. However, she explains that exhibits like American Women Artists Since the Vote are meant to be interpreted by the artgoer. McCusker advises people viewing exhibits to ignore the labels and take time to look at the art.
But I really do believe that it's important when you go into an art museum to really, devote your attention to the visual. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just focusing your attention on what you like, what interests you, what captivates you, or what you find really strange and want to know more about.
the Museum of Art and Archaeology have more exhibits coming soon that will present symbolic floral art and works from Andy Warhol, so the opportunity to self-explore is not over yet. Signing off from MUTV 23, I'm Dominique Hodge.
Thanks, Dominique, for covering this story. If Bob the Builder lived in Columbia, he would surely have his hands full. Ellis Library is currently under construction, and many students have taken notice. Among the many projects underway at Ellis is the restoration of its many historic windows. 23 News reporter Jacqueline Harris has further developments on the story.
Construction around Ellis Library has become a familiar sight for students looking to get their study hours in, but it raises the question, how will these projects benefit students and when will it be complete? We spoke to a few individuals affiliated with the libraries to learn more. Arguably the most noticeable of the projects is the windows and masonry restoration. The windows in the 1914 and 1938 section of the library are currently being restored.
And those were badly in need of some attention. And this project not only replaced those historic windows, but it restored all of the windows in both of those sections of the building.
Chairman of the University Library's Student Advisory Council, Lane Carlisle, says the Student Advisory Board is also looking into renovations on the inside of the library in the coming months.
There's also conversations about potential renovations on the inside and stuff, and all of that is student oriented, of trying to create a library that not only addresses student needs and what they want from a library, but also makes them feel welcomed whenever they walk into the space every day.
The libraries have had to adapt to accommodate both the construction and COVID-19. While Reading Room 201 is now open, there are spaces that are still closed to students.
So from the library side, we kind of had to maneuver things. So a more quiet area on the first floor was changed to a more collaborative group study space to work with groups in that manner.
The timeline on most of these projects is dependent on the speed of construction, and with the help of OLSAC, the libraries are already looking to start more projects in the future, including COVID-safe pickup options and day-use lockers for students.
One type of locker is a day-use locker. That means that you'll be able to secure your belongings for free with your student ID badge. And you also will have the ability to charge your smart devices in a secure way while you're studying in the libraries.
For MUTV 23 News, this is Jacqueline Harris.
Imagine being a photojournalist in 1943 and having no place to showcase your work. Fear not, because in one short year, the first annual Pictures of the Year contest will be founded at the University of Missouri School of Journalism today. This competition is the longest annual photojournalism contest. This year's festivities began on February 16th and will run until March 7th. To learn more about this information, this year's contest, head to our website and read 23 News reporter Eleanor Sheehan's web story. That's all we have for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning into our show. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at MUTV23. I'm Sierra Allen.
I'm Nayoka Morgan.
And I'm Siggy Reese. Have a great night, Tigers.